Hello friends, welcome to my channel Vedic Astrology Guru. This is an astrology channel based upon new researches and discoveries in the field of astrology. So today I am presenting you one such discovery. Many a times we have questions which arise in our heart and mind that what is the purpose of my life or what is my soul's journey. So since this question also arose in my mind and heart long time back, and I tried to find answers for this through astrology and their explanations. I have come across a concept which I am presenting to you. I hope you like that concept to understand the journey of your life. And yes, if you want to learn astrology, then you can join my research, you can learn from me, you can contact through the email address and telephone numbers provided below in the column. And don't forget to subscribe my channel. Thank you. To understand the concept of what is the purpose of my life and the sole purpose, we need to understand the word Purushartha. Purushartha is a composite Sanskrit word from Purusha and Artha. Purusha means primeval human being as the soul and original source of universe. Artha in one context means purpose, object of desire, and meaning. Hence, Purusha Artha literally means an object of human pursuit. It is a key concept mentioned in scriptures, epics, and Vedic classics in Hinduism and refers to the four proper goals or aims of a human life. So, what are those four aims? Let us understand that. The four Purushartha are first, being Dharma, or in literal sense, righteousness. The second Purushartha being Artha, or prosperity. The third Purushartha being Kama, or pleasure. And the fourth Purushartha being Moksha, or liberation. All four Purusharthas are important, but in cases of conflict, Dharma is considered more important than Artha or Kama. If only Artha or Kama is pursued, then they lead to chaos in personal and social life. Moksha is considered the ultimate ideal of human life. So let us understand these four Purusharthas in detail now. Dharma. It is the pursuit of religion, social duties, morals, ethics, and virtuous conduct which helps to sustain cosmic harmony. Now let us understand the second Purushartha. Artha. It is the pursuit of resources of material prosperity such as wealth, career, finances, economic activities, politics, and laws to sustain means of life. The third Purushartha, Kama. It is the pursuit of aesthetic enjoyment of life as love, desires, wishes, passions, emotions, erotics, relationships, and pleasure of the senses. And the last Purushartha, Moksha. It is the pursuit of liberation from cycle of mortality by cultivating virtuous values through meditation for freedom, self-knowledge, self-realization, spiritual release, and emancipation from the cycles of rebirth. So here we have the four Purusharthas. To understand this better, now let us relate these four Purusharthas with astrology. So the four aims of soul or the four Purusharthas. Now let us understand how these four Purusharthas are associated with the 12 houses of a horoscope. Now here we have a circular chart and on the right we have a North Indian chart, a square chart. Both the charts are same. Both the chart represents 12 houses. So let us understand how are the four Purusharthas divided among these 12 houses. Starting from the first house represents the Purushartha named Dharma, the second house Artha, the third Kama, the fourth Moksha, the fifth again Dharma, the sixth Artha, the seventh Kama, the eighth Moksha, the ninth Dharma, the 10th Artha, the 11th Kama, and the 12th Moksha again. So the cycle of Dharma, Artha, Kam, and Moksha is repeated thrice among the 12 houses. These different Purusharthas are also called the Purushartha trines. The first trine being the Dharma trine, which is represented by the first, the fifth, and the ninth house. The second Purushartha trine being the Artha trine, represented by the second, the sixth, and the 10th house. The third Purushartha trine being the Kama trine, represented by the third, the seventh, and the 11th house. And lastly, the fourth trine, the Moksha trine, represented by the fourth, the eighth, and the 12th house of the horoscope. So these are four different trines of a horoscope. Now, since we have associated the four Purusharthas with the 12 houses of the horoscope, let us understand how these four Purusharthas are divided among the 12 zodiacs. Now, the four aims of soul or Purusharthas divided among the 12 zodiac, starting with the first zodiac sign, Aries. Now, the Aries represents Dharma, the Taurus represents Artha, the Gemini represents Kama, the Cancer represents Moksha. Again, the cycle repeats from Leo, being Dharma, Virgo representing the Artha Purushartha, Libra representing the Kama Purushartha, Scorpio representing the Moksha, Sagittarius representing again Dharma, Capricorn Artha, Aquarius Kama, and Pisces Moksha eventually. So see how beautifully these four aims of soul or the four Purusharthas are divided among the 12 houses and the 12 zodiacs beautifully. Now let us recapture all these four aims of soul once again. So here we have the 12 houses of the horoscope, and among them the divided four Purusharthas, starting with the first house as Dharma, the second as Artha, the third as Kama, and the fourth Moksha, and eventually from fifth house onwards the cycle is repeating again. So let us recapture what we have done so far. The first Purushartha being Dharma, represented by the first, the fifth, and the ninth house of the horoscope, also by the first, the fifth, and the ninth zodiac of the natural horoscope. The first being Aries, the fifth being Leo, and the ninth being Sagittarius. So Dharma, it is the pursuit of religion, social duties, morals, ethics, and virtuous conduct, which helps to sustain cosmic harmony. The second Purushartha being Artha, represented by the second, the sixth, and the 10th house of the horoscope, and the second, sixth, and 10th natural zodiac being Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. It is the pursuit of resources of material prosperity such as wealth, career, finance, economic activities, politics, and laws to sustain means of life. Now let us understand the third Purushartha, Kama, represented by the the third, seventh, and the 11th. The third, the seventh, and the 11th house of the horoscope, and the third, the seventh, and 11th zodiac. It is the pursuit of aesthetic enjoyment of life as love, desires, wishes, passions, emotions, erotics, relationships, and pleasure of the senses. So that is Kama Purushartha. Let us understand the fourth Purushartha here, which is Moksha, represented by the 4th, 8th, and 12th house of the horoscope. Also the 4th, 8th, and 12th zodiac sign being Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. So, moksha is the pursuit of liberation from cycles of mortality by cultivating virtuous values through meditation for freedom, self knowledge, self realization, spiritual release, and emancipation from the cycles of birth. So, this is what we have done so far. Now we have understood how the four Purusharthas are divided among the 12 houses, the 12 zodiacs. Now, let us understand how these four Purusharthas are divided among the 9 planets, so to better understand and get those answers that represent what is the purpose of my life through astrology. What is my soul's journey? To understand this better through astrology, now let us understand how planets are associated with these four Purusharthas. Now, here again we have a square chart starting with the natural primordial zodiac Aries, called a Kala Purusha chart, the primordial human chart, starting with Aries as the ascendant. Now, as you can see, that few zodiacs are in the dark color and zodiacs from Aries and Scorpio are in light color. There is a purpose to it, a very specific purpose to it. Now, let us understand what is that purpose behind the dark zodiacs and the light zodiacs. Now, as we know, that the first house is the east horizon and the east direction where sunrise takes place. So, this makes an important division of a horoscope. This makes the brighter half and the darker half of a horoscope. So sun starts to move during the day from the first house to the 12th, then 11th, then 10th, then 9th, and eventually the 8th house. Post 8th house, in the 7th house, we see sunset. From that part, from that specific 7th house, we see the darker half. Basically, after the sun sets, we see the darker half of the horoscope. Now here we have sun setting in the 7th, which makes the 7th house and up till the 2nd house the darker half of the horoscope. So now we have two different divisions. One is the dark half of the horoscope and one being the bright half. Now, as we have discussed the houses and the zodiacs previously among the four Purusharthas, here we have something special to note. Now, what is that speciality? Now, let us look at the dark half of the horoscope. The darker half, in an anti-clockwise manner or the natural consecutive zodiac manner, starting from Taurus and up till Libra, we have the darker half. But the four Purusharthas, starting from Taurus, would be Artha. The Artha Purushartha is associated with the 2nd house or the Taurus zodiac sign. And eventually the darker half ends at Libra, which is Kama house, associated with the Kama house and the Kama zodiac sign. So what is happening here, which is notable, is that we have the darker half on one side, the 2nd house being the Artha house, and this other darker half, the 7th house, represented as Kama. But the rest of the zodiacs, the rest of the houses, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, which is Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and Virgo, all these signs are hemmed between the Artha and Kama Purusharthas, making it a one separate group. Now let us come to the brighter half of the horoscope. As you can see, the bright half is Aries, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, Sagittarius, and Scorpio. Now the Aries, the first house, represents the Dharma Purushartha. The Aries sign, the first house, both represent Dharma Purushartha, and the 8th house and the Scorpio sign represent Moksha. So the brighter half is hemmed between Dharma Purushartha and Moksha Purushartha. So that becomes a major influence on the rest of the zodiac signs as well, which is Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, hemmed between these two Purusharthas. So now we have very well defined two separate groups here, one being the darker half and another being the bright half of the horoscope. Now it becomes easier for us to group the planets, assuming the bright half and the dark half. So let us see here what is the group we get. Now there is another speciality, that the dark half planets, which are interior planets, we get Venus, Mercury, Moon, Sun, and Rahu. And if you observe that the planets represented by the dark half are interior planets if seen from Earth, and the bright half planets are exterior planets. So first being Mars, the second being Jupiter, the third being Saturn, and the fourth being Ketu eventually. So now we have two different groups of planet represented by the dark half and the bright half, the interior planets and the exterior planets as well. Now let us understand how we will connect them with the four Purusharthas according to astrology. Now since we have two different groups of planets, we need to make two different groups of Purusharthas as well for easy division of planets. So the closest group here would be Dharma and Moksha. So now let us divide the planets among the four Purusharthas, and the closest well-matched Purusharthas are Dharma and Moksha. Dharma representing the righteousness and Moksha representing liberation. So the first group would be Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and Ketu under the division of Dharma and Moksha, which are the exterior planets or the planets associated with the brighter half of the horoscope. Now what is the second group that we get here is Artha and Kama. Artha representing the economic affairs and Kama representing the material pursuits of a human's life. Now the planets associated with this group of Purushartha are Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Rahu, the North Node. Now it is an experience that I have divided the North and the South Node according to their characteristics specific to these Purusharthas. Now since we have beautifully divided these Purusharthas with the 12 houses, the 12 zodiacs, and among the 9 planets, now let us understand how we will apply and use these Purusharthas. Now, since we have divided these 4 Purusharthas among the 12 houses, the 12 zodiacs, and the 9 planets, now let us understand how to use these Purusharthas to understand the journey of a person's life or the sole purpose of a human. So here is an example starting with Aries as ascendant for her horoscope. Let us say we have Venus in the 7th house. Now the 7th house representing the Kama trine, the 7th zodiac Libra also associated with the Kama Purushartha, and Venus also divided among the Purushartha of Artha and Kama. Again, repeats Kama too much. So we have excessive Kama activation here. So definitely in such a case, the pursuit of a human's life or the inclination of a human's life would be more towards the aesthetic enjoyment, the material purpose of life. Let us take another example here. Again, Aries as an ascendant, we have Jupiter in the 9th house. Now, as we know, the 9th house represents the Dharma Purushartha. The 9th zodiac sign, Sagittarius, also represents the Dharma Purushartha, which is the Purushartha of righteousness. And Jupiter, being an exterior planet, is also associated with the Purushartha of Dharma and Moksha, which is righteousness and liberation. So we have a lot of ethical, the righteous, dharma repeating here or influencing. So the person's journey or the sole purpose of a person's life would be inclined towards dharma. So these are some rough examples. We will be taking more horoscopes up ahead. So please stay with me. Now here I am presenting you some dictums as to how to identify the sole purpose of a person's life or the soul's journey of a person's life. Now, what are those dictums? Let us understand what we have learned so far and how we need to apply that information to a horoscope. So the first dictum is we need to consider the rising ascendant. The rising ascendant is important. You need to identify what is the rising sign in the ascendant. So once you identify the rising sign in the ascendant, you can obviously associate it with the correct Purushartha. The second dictum is ascendant lord in house and sign. So you need to identify the ascendant, the position of the ascendant lord, the planet which is the ascendant lord has gone to which house. Let us say it is posited in the fourth house, so it will be the Moksha Purushartha represented by the fourth house. But not just the house, we also need to see which sign it is posited in and identify the Purushartha associated with that zodiac sign. Now let us understand the third dictum. We need to see the moon, the placement of moon among the house and the zodiac sign which it gets associated with, represented by that specific Purushartha represented by the house and the zodiac sign. Why moon? Because moon represents your own emotions. Moon represents your own mind, the emotional part of the mind, and definitely those inclinations triggered by your emotions. And the fourth dictum being sun. You also need to see the sun represented as a soul. The representation of a soul, the energy of a human is represented by sun. So that inclination also needs to be taken in consideration. So we need to check which house and which zodiac sign the sun is associated with, specific to those Purusharthas represented by the house and the sign placed. The placement of the sun needs to be checked. And lastly, the strongest planet in house and sign needs special consideration. Now, how will we identify the strongest planet? It is very simple. We will see for exaltations of planet. We will see if the planets are in their own signs. Those planets will be considered as the strongest one. Now, let us take few example charts now. Now, here is where it gets more interesting to understand the practicality of it, the application of all these concepts, what we have learned so far. Now here is an interesting example chart. Example chart of Paramhansa Yogananda. Now, if we look at apply the dictums. Now let us apply the dictums here. Now we have Leo rising in the zodiac. We have Leo as the ascendant. Now Leo, as we know, the zodiac sign represents Dharma Purushartha. Now the ascendant lord is Sun. It is posited in the fifth house. The fifth house again represents the Dharma Purushartha. And it is posited in the sign Sagittarius. The Sagittarius sign again is associated with Dharma. Now we need to also see the moon and the sun in the chart. And as we know, moon is placed in the ascendant in Leo sign, again both associated with the Dharma Purushartha. See the beauty of this chart. And again the sun representing the soul of a person. The sun again in fifth house, Sagittarius sign, again association is Dharma. So Dharma is repeating constantly here. But I will try to bring your attention to the last dictum, which is an exceptional dictum. You need to check the strongest planet of the chart. Now, as we know, that sun is in one of the trines in the zodiac sign Sagittarius, in a friendly sign. So we can say here, we can instantly tell that sun has great strength here. But many may not agree with me and say, no, Jupiter is in its own sign and Jupiter is more strong. So we can consider either of these or both of them. So sun, as we have already discussed, is definitely associated with the Dharma. But if we look at Jupiter being in Pisces, the eighth house. Now, the eighth house represents liberation, moksha, and the Pisces sign itself again represents moksha, purushartha. And as we know, Paramhansa Yogananda ji is an Indian monk, yogi, and guru who introduced millions to the teachings of meditation and Kriya Yoga, which is definitely the pursuit of Dharma and Moksha, represented by his chart. So, see how beautifully all the planets indicate the pursuit of Dharma and Moksha for this person's life, which is quite evident by his own journey. So, this is how you assess a soul's journey. Let us take a few interesting examples ahead. Now here we have Swami Vivekananda. Now Swami Vivekananda was an Indian Hindu monk and a philosopher. He was a chief disciple of the 19th century Indian mystic Ramakrishna. Now again, we have Sagittarius rising in the ascendant with Sun placed there. And Sagittarius is again associated with Dharma. Now, the ascendant lord, although is posited in the 11th house represented by Kaam Purushartha and in the sign Libra represented by Kaam. But we move further and see the moon is in the Virgo sign in the 10th house. Now the 10th house is an Artha house and Virgo sign is again an Artha sign. But that becomes irrelevant here. As I mentioned, we always need to see, no matter you see the ascendant, no matter you see the moon, the sun, you always need to give special consideration to the strongest planet in the horoscope. Now, as we can see, that sun is again in the ascendant, which makes it a very powerful position for the sun. And that too in a friendly sign, Sagittarius. And some may not agree with me. Some may say, no, Mars is in its own sign in the horoscope, being the strongest planet. If you consider Mars, Mars is again in the 5th house, the house of Dharma. In sign Aries, the Aries sign representing again Dharma. And it is imperative that we already know that Mars also belongs to the Purushartha group of Dharma and Moksha. So either you consider Sun as the strongest planet or Mars as the strongest one. We have a very heavy influence of Dharma here in this chart. And definitely that eventually became the sole purpose of Swami Vivekananda. And we already know it because it is an open book. Now let us take another chart here. Now we have an Indian celebrity, Salman Khan here. Salman Khan is an Indian actor, celebrity, film producer, singer, painter, and television personality who works in Hindi films in a film career spanning over 30 years. Now, let us see, where is the ascendant lord? Where is the moon? Where is the sun? The ascendant lord is in the 10th house in its exaltation. Now, 10th house, as we know, is the Artha house. 10th house has Capricorn zodiac sign associated with it, which is again the Artha Purushartha. And Mars being exalted in this chart. And look at the chart. We have the strongest planet in the 10th house, Mars. It has a lot of directional force here. So, imperative of moon being in 11th house, the Kama house associated with the Aquarius sign, the Kama sign, or sun in the Dharma house. We have a very strong Mars energy here, which is in the Artha house associated with the Artha sign. And as we know that being a celebrity brings upon its own benefits of money, fame, name, which is again associated with the Artha or the economic factors of a person's life, which are more interpersonal to a person. So definitely all these inclinations for this person are imperative. They are bound to happen in this person's life. And as you can see through the career graph of this person, that he is well associated, well imbibed in the Artha Purushartha, making it his sole purpose or the destiny or the journey of his life. Now let us take a few more charts here. Now we have chart of Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth was famous American-British actress and celebrity, having married 8 to 9 times in her life. Now this is an exceptional event in a celebrity's life, that she has married 8 to 9 times in her life. So what do we have? The rising sign in the ascendant is Libra, and with moon, the emotional mind, the emotional inclination of a person, that too in the ascendant in the Libra sign. The Libra sign represents the Kama Purushartha, as we know, moon associated with it. Sun again in the fifth house, although the Dharma house, but associated with Aquarius, a Kama Purushartha sign, the Aquarius sign. Now we have a lot of conflict here. Although moon is in the Dharma house, but in the Kama sign. Sun is in the Dharma house, but again in the Kama sign, Aquarius, the sign representing the Kama Purushartha. So there is a lot of conflict here now. How do we assess this chart better? Now, as I mentioned, that you have to give exceptional consideration to the strongest planet in the chart. And it is imperative that ascendant lord plays an important role in the horoscope if it is exalted. And as we know here, that Venus, being the ascendant lord, is exalted. Now, many may see Saturn as the strongest one, but let me give you an exception that Venus is in exaltation here. And we know that the sixth house is representing the Artha Purushartha, again, the economic affairs of a person's life. And as we know, Venus again belongs to the Kama and Artha, the Artha and Kama Purushartha group. So definitely we have a lot of conflicting results in the chart, with conflicting results associated with Artha, associated with Kama here. And Venus definitely in the Artha sign is representing economic affairs. So definitely there has been a lot of controversy around this woman, as we know. And the soul's journey, the purpose of the journey was well imbibed, being a celebrity with Artha and Kama perspectives of the life, that she already married 8 to 9 times. So it is quite evident that Artha Purushartha and Kama Purushartha played a huge role in Elizabeth Taylor's life. Now let's take another chart here. Princess Diana, as we all are aware of the personality here. Now, Diana, Princess of Wales, was a member of the British royal family. She was the first wife of Charles, Prince of Wales, the heir apparent to the British throne. Now, I will not go into too much of detail. Let us simply move on to the strongest planet in the chart. Now, we have a retrograde Saturn placed in its own sign. And not just Saturn here. We have Venus also in its own sign in the 7th house, making them two of the most strongest planets here. The Saturn being in the 3rd house associated with the Kama Purushartha and Capricorn sign, the Saturn's position in Capricorn sign, the Capricorn sign associated with the Artha Purushartha. Again, in the inclination here seems to be associated with Artha and Kama, and definitely the 7th house, Venus. Venus, first of all, belonging to the group of Artha and Kama Purushartha. The position of the 7th house associated with the Kama Purushartha, and Taurus sign, the Taurus sign representing the Artha. So definitely the person's inclination will always be towards Artha and Kama Purusharthas. And as we know that the Princess Diana had her life opened up as a book, and the events of her life were well imbibed, well associated with the pursuits of Artha Purushartha and Kama Purushartha. So that represents again the sole purpose, the initial inclination of a person's life. Let us take more example here. Ted Bundy. Now, Ted Bundy was an American serial killer who kidnapped and murdered numerous young women and girls during the 1970s. He confessed to 30 homicides, killing 30 women, more than 30 women in fact, that he committed in 7 states between 1974 and 1978. Now again, if we look at the strongest planet here, exceptional planet here, that is Venus, making it more stronger here. Many may not agree with me. They will say Mars is in Scorpio. But if you look closely, there is combustion of Mars. Sun being in the orb, Mars being in the orb of combustion along with Sun. So it is combust here. But although Venus is also combust, Venus is not combust here in this chart. That is the exception here, making Venus more stronger, and a retrograde Venus in its own sign, Libra. Now, as we know, Venus belongs to again Artha and Kama Purushartha. The 3rd house associated with the Kama Purushartha, which is the material pursuit, which is the emotion, which is the pursuit of aesthetic enjoyments of life. and Libra sign, again associated with the Kama Purushartha. Now we have too much of Kama influence in this chart. And as we can see that he had a very negative inclination towards the Kama Purushartha. And he went on to, killing mercilessly these women. So definitely we have a huge role play of Kama Purushartha in this person's life. So making it his soul's journey or the purpose of life. Now let us take one more last example here. Donald Trump, the famous personality, Donald John Trump, is an American politician, media personality, and a businessman who served as the 45th president of the United States. Now, I don't think I need to detail more upon the status of this person. Now, we have now let us simply identify the strongest planet. I don't want to waste a lot of time, so let us not go into the moon, the sun, the ascendant lord. Let us see the exceptional planet in the horoscope. It will instantly give us the sole purpose or the journey of this person's life. Now, as we can see that we have an exceptional Mercury in its own sign, Gemini. Now, Mercury belongs to the Artha and Kama group of Purusharthas. Posited in the 11th house. Now, 11th house is well associated with the Kama Purushartha. The third sign, Gemini, is also associated with Kaam, which is the emotional pursuit, which is the pursuit of material world, the desires of a human being, the emotional satisfaction becomes imperative for such a person. So we have a lot of Kama playing role here. And as we know, this personality, he's a very famous personality, a big businessman. So definitely emotional gratification, satisfaction becomes imperative to such a person. And again, we know a lot about this personality. So Kama plays a huge role or becomes the sole purpose of this person's life. And it becomes the journey, the path of this person's life. So this is the whole concept here. I hope you liked my presentation here, and I tried to make it as easily explainable as possible. And if there were any errors in presenting, there were any mistakes by me, so kindly forget them. And if you have any questions regarding the concept that I have explained, you can always leave a message, or you can directly contact me through my email or my telephone number. So this is the whole concept that I tried to explain, and I hope you liked it well. So kindly subscribe to my channel, and if you want to learn astrology, I teach many versions of astrology. I teach basic Vedic astrology, I teach nakshatra jyotish, prashna jyotish, Krishnamurti Paddhati jyotish, nadijyotish, etc. So you can always get in touch with me through my email and telephone number or WhatsApp these days, which is a very easy, accessible communication. So thank you for watching my video, and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you once again. Namaste.